Hello and welcome to week 5 of the Country Garden Crochet Along. And this week we're going to be attaching our daisies and making the border around our lawn. So let's get started. So we've got our lawn and we got all 8 of our daisies. And I've woven in all the ends apart from one. And it's this tail that we're going to use to attach them. Now where you decide to place your daisies is entirely up to you. The only thing that I will say is that you should avoid putting them too close to the edge, as we'll be working around the edge next. So to attach them, I'll just remove all these except for this one. All we're going to do is use that tail and where it's placed, you're just going to work round. So I'm just going to work through some of the stitches and then work back through the daisy. So I'm going to try and attach it on several sides. Okay, so then I'm just going to choose another stitch and then through the daisy as well. So I'm only attaching them in the middle, but if you would prefer the edges attached down as well, then you can go around the outside. But I'm just kind of sticking around the edge, and then just choose that stitch there and go into that side there. Oh, that was a bit tight. There we go, that's a bit looser. And then pull through. So you want to attach it but without pulling up any of your green parts. So that's attached nice and flat, and it's attached on several sides, and that's quite firm. So then I'm just going to weave in this end on here. So I'm just going to weave into green parts, like so. Just get it nicely attached, and then grab my scissors and cut off. There we go, one nicely firmly attached daisy. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the rest of them, and I shall come back to you in a moment. Okay, so we've got our daisies attached, and now I'm going to start our border. So don't worry if you've got a bit of a wobbly bit in some of these sections. The way we're going to do the border is going to hide this. Okay, so we're going to get our next colour, which is this lovely brown, and what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch all the way around the edge. Okay, so join anywhere in any stitch and just pull through and chain one just to secure it. So that chain one, it doesn't count as a stitch. And in the same stitch I'm going to make a slip stitch. So I've joined into a single crochet, and we're going to make one stitch into the side of a crochet row. Does that even make sense? One slip stitch into the side of every single crochet row, 2 slip stitches into the side of every double crochet row, and 3 slip stitches into the side of every treble crochet row. Okay, so I've got a treble crochet here, so there's 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitches, and I like to go into this bit here at the top, just above this bar for the third one. There we go, and then I'm just going to get into the side there, and then a slip stitch for that single crochet row. Ignore the corners, so we're not adding any stitches for the corners. You're just going to add a slip stitch for the side of that single crochet row, and then one into the top loops, and then slip stitch into the top of every stitch. And that's all you're going to do all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to continue with that, and I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so I've got back round to the beginning, and I'm now going to slip stitch into the first slip stitch. Okay, so ignore that first chain one and go a slip stitch into the slip stitch. There we go. So you should have 45 slip stitches across the top and bottom, and 56 slip stitches down the sides. Okay, so that should count 45 across the top and bottom, 56 down the sides. Okay, so now move on to the next part. I'm just going to take that stitch marker out, and we're going to start here where we are now, and I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to work into the top loop of that same slip stitch. There we go. And I'm going to make a double crochet turning chain. I say turning chain because we're not actually turning, we're carrying on in the round, but it's the same stitch you would make as if you were making a turning chain. And now we're going to double crochet into the top loop of every slip stitch. So using the same colour as you used for your slip stitches, and double crochet in every one. Oops, just grab some more yarn. There we go. Okay, so when we get to the corners, I'm just coming up on one now, we're going to be adding an extra stitch. So if you want pointy corners, you would add 3 stitches into a single stitch for the turn. For this I'm only adding 2 stitch, well, 1 extra stitch for the corners. So we're going to have 2 double crochet in the corner stitch, and the corner stitch for me is that first stitch in the top loops. Okay, I'm not putting it at the sides, I'm putting it in the top loops. So once we get to the other end, I'm going to put that second stitch in the last stitch in the top loops. The slip stitches made in the top loops will hold shape better than the ones down the sides. So that's why I put them in there. So when I get to that first slip stitch in those top loops, 2 double crochet, and that is your corner. And having 2 stitches rather than 3 will give us rounded corners and not sharp ones. Okay, so we've got those 2 stitches in, and now we carry on across the top with a double crochet in the top loop of every slip stitch, and you carry that all the way around. So your corner stitches go in the first and last stitch of the top and bottom rows. So in that slip stitch that's made, and the first and last stitch go in both loops. So across the top it's on both loops, and across the bottom is the foundation chains. You put 2 double crochet in the corners. But other than that, we're just working in that top loop of the slip stitches, double crochet in each stitch round. Okay, and you can see that rounded corner now, and that's what we're going to get for all our corners. Nice rounded ones. So I'm going to carry on with that, and I shall see you when I get back to the beginning. Okay, so I've got back round to the beginning, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into that first double crochet, or your first turning chain, mind. I keep calling it turning chain, so if I keep calling turning chains when we're doing it in the round, I just mean that stitch you started with. Okay. And now we're going to do a second row of double crochet. So into the same stitch you've just slip stitch into, make another starting chain of a double crochet height. Go. And and we're just going to double crochet in each stitch round, and again when you get to the corners you're going to add an extra stitch. So when I say the corner one, we've already got 2 stitches here, so what I've been doing is I'm making my 2 double crochet into the second of those stitches. So if you're right-handed, we're working clockwise, so stitch 1 and stitch 2, and I put my 2 double crochet in this second stitch. If you're left-handed, it would be this stitch. Okay, it doesn't really matter which one you put it into as long as you're consistent all the way around. If you're putting your 2 double crochet in the first one, make sure you do that for the entire project. I'm using the second one and I'm going to do that for the entire project. You'll need to be consistent or you'll end up with slightly wonky edges, so just remember which one you're going to call your corner stitch. So we're going to double crochet in each stitch round except for that corner stitch where we're going to make 2 double crochet. Okay. And where's my 2? And that one. Okay, so that's my first, and then this one's my second, so 2 double crochet in here. Oops. Brilliant. There we go. Stuck yarn. And 2 double crochet into the corner stitch. There we go. So I'm going to continue that all the way around, and I shall see you when I get back to the beginning. Okay, so I've got back round to the beginning and I slip stitched into that first starting chain. And once you've done that, you can cut off and weave in your ends. And that is week 5 complete. So next week we're going to be starting on our top panel here. And we shall continue with the cowl. So thank you for joining me, and I shall see you next time for week 6. Bye for now.